I think it's time to say goodbye to my little orange experiment. Of course, at least it's an honest orange, not a liar. But Sam would just say, hey, the whole industry is built on lies anyway. They're all liars. And well, we'll say, well, that's true, but it looks bad anyway. So we'll have them set up the whole thing, the whole deal. IPO, get it all set, ready to go. And then we'll say, oh, by the way, just need a different CEO. Ooh, out. We'll see. Anyway, it's not like this orange has been kept in cold storage or anything. So I'm just gonna. It's still good though. I mean, I wouldn't eat it, but I mean, I would if I was starving. I'd have to peel it first. Still smells fine. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of cold storage and lying, and the previous post I did about at the end I said about fires, how they're difficult to put out, especially when you set it up that way with maximum profits in mind. So like Boyle Heights, you've seen that one. So it's been burning for 4 days now, and there's just apparently no way to put it out. So in a situation like that, you see that they had no sprinkler system in there, right? And it's pretty obvious why. I mean, you can't have like a sprinkler in there. The pipes would freeze, right? But you would do like a standpipe system or some other way. But apparently there was just no way to ever put a fire out in that thing if it got going. And how it got approved, of course, they would just normally you bribe or lobby and get any requirements removed, so you don't have to have fire suppression at all because it'd be too expensive to build in fire suppression in a system like that. Besides, it would never catch fire. It's frozen. It could never catch fire anyway. Right. And then probably later on, some agency somewhere forces them to put the solar panels on the roof. Because they have all our space up there. What could possibly go wrong? And that's, of course, right in the middle of a residential or, LA. I mean, the whole area. And, of course, the biohazard risk. I think that's going to be, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next week. Wow. 85 million pounds of rotting food in the middle. They can't do anything because it's on fire. Fighting the fire is going to go on for weeks. Wow, it's going to be something to watch. And there's no way to put out the fire, right? No matter what. Today, Sunday, they're tearing the walls off. And you just see like barbecue on the inside. Wow. Everybody are getting poisoned there. Because you have to do it. I mean, the whole industry, the industry, all society now is built on this. You have to have the warehouses, these huge warehouses, and put them into residential, as close as you can to, civilization, to get to logistics, right? Distribute everything as cheaply as possible. Got to be able to order it online and have it shipped. Right? So that's still going on. So that's interesting. So I'd say, yeah, that's interesting. They had no fire suppression. But they had apparently built that inside the residential area, right? Unlike, let's look at, what's the next one? Tracy, the Medline fire. That's interesting. So, this is like double the size, 1 million square feet. And it burned down like in 30 minutes or something crazy. And apparently they did have fire suppression, but it didn't work. So we're waiting to hear about that. That's interesting. I have a couple of ideas of how that happened. I mean, it could have been nutria blocking the pipes, right? Chickens. Or, more likely, plausible, would be someone shut off the water because they're either working on the fire system, because it's a big system, right? Big, huge building complex, probably a fire system. And I know we're here in San Francisco, I mean, there's always fire alarms, accidental alarms going off all the time. So if you're working on it or there's a problem with it, I could see somebody shutting off the water months ago. Maybe. Who knows, right? We'll find out. But somehow the water was shut off. Wasn't turned on before before they needed it. Well, we don't know why. I think that's funny. Very likely that some manager said, yeah, let's just turn off the water. Anyway, we'll see what happened there. And then the other one, okay, so, and then of course the way it started probably, was super hot. That, that huge million square foot, top, the building on the top, probably a fan. How do they, inspect all that stuff up there? Right. So a fan failed, motor failed probably, right, and caught fire, and then burned through the roof because everything was really hot, and then wow, just poof, gone. And luckily, the smoke blew all around, just down south towards like Salinas, and just over probably agricultural land. Nothing to worry about. A lot like the Moss Landing fire that happened like a year ago. All those batteries, the whole battery storage thing, poof, just polluted all the agricultural land out there. No problem. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. So then Garden Grove. That's an interesting one. So this is a different one. So this one, if you saw that one, that was a chemical tank. And it just, we don't know yet why, but it failed. It failed apparently 2 days after they announced that they were going to double the production of their F-15 fighter cockpit things, whatever they make there, that they've been making there. This industry's been there since the 1940s. I had to look it up because the first thing I saw when I saw the videos were all the residential was new construction, and the tanks look really old, and they all look really exposed too. I mean, they're just right out there, not enclosed in anything, but maybe a chain link fence, maybe, right? And if you saw the city council meetings, I saw like three or four they've had, and yeah, apparently it's just all Palestinian activists surrounded in Garden Grove. Who could have guessed? Yeah, right. So in this case, okay, remember it's all lying. They built these houses right up against the fence there. They just wanted to build more and more, pack them all in. Never told anybody, although you could see the tanks. Everybody could see the big tanks. Everybody knew they were there, but not now. They don't know. Of course, now they don't know. No. Nobody ever knew they were there now. But they've been there for for at least the 90s when GKN bought it. It's been there. And it looks pretty vulnerable, especially if, you're surrounded by, people who may not like your industry very much. So it's very plausible that something happened to the valve, right? And so you have to be sort of careful because there's like probably thousands of these tanks, just like this, where, there was an industry and then they just pack everybody right next to it. And they don't want to talk about that. Oh, no. So at the meetings, what you would do, if you're a smart city council, of course, is you organize like the Palestinian activists. Yeah, you invite them. You let them know that the meeting's on and invite them, give them preferential treatment so that you don't have to talk about anything else. Takes over the whole, the oxygen in the room, gone. So that's very possible. We don't know. But why it's important, of course, I mean, it's sort of funny. But here, I'm in San Francisco, and just south of here, there's a city called Brisbane, and it's a lot of warehouses, for one thing. Up in the hills behind, there's just row upon row, all these big, huge warehouses. They want like bigger ones, huge. And they also want to triple the population. 2,000 new houses, at least, in Brisbane. Because they need to build in housing, okay? But they're not going to tell you about the risks. So they're not going to tell you about the warehouses, that are hidden back there. And they're not going to, I mean, who's going to be worried about warehouses? They're totally fine. What could possibly happen? And it also has, that's the tank farm. Millions of gallons of fuel. It's right there. It's where the airport is, and they have these huge tanks. If you see them on the freeway, huge tanks. What could possibly go wrong, right? And what else? Oh, sea level rise. So it's like a marsh. So all that area there is going to be underwater some point in the future, probably sooner than later. And they're not going to tell you any of that stuff. So wherever you're going to be moving to, there's going to be places like that where they're not going to tell you about the risks, right? And pack people up. Profit max, right? You got to pack in as many as possible. So it's just things to be aware of. So, and your escape routes, because you'd be sort of stuck there. Yeah. So anyway, that's just the video for today. Have fun. This is Sunday. Happy Father's Day.